Here's another past life. This one I had about 3 dreams of, and I'll just kind of put them all together. It's still not very long, but I know it was above the Great Lakes, somewhere in Canada. I was French Canadian. I know we were French Canadian, and I do have French Canadian ancestry. I looked to be about 11, and I had very light brown hair and olive complexion. And it takes place in our cabin. We had a big family, and we lived at the edge of a forest. It was beautiful, and we were kind of secluded, like no close neighbors. And I think there was a cholera outbreak, and the only ones left out of our family alive were my 15-year-old brother and myself. And he was taking the bodies out as they passed away and put them out front and covered them with a white sheet. We lived in a small little cabin, and I think there were about 6 bodies outside that I remember seeing. And I was taking care of the baby. I had a little damp cloth. I was wiping her forehead, and I looked down, and she was already passed away, but I think I was in shock. I didn't know what to do, so I just kept wiping her head. And then my brother was outside putting a body out there, and we heard some people, and so I got up, and I was standing in the doorway, and I think they were relatives. It was an older couple, and when they came out of the forest and kind of saw everything, she was hysterical, crying, and she didn't know what to do. Her husband was holding a big black cast iron pot, like she had made a soup, and they were bringing it to us. And they finally just put the pot down, and she said, we'll come back. We'll come back. And they turned around and left, and I went back in the house and went back to the baby, and my brother just turned around in the doorway, standing in the door frame. And I remember I just looked up at him, and he was covered in sweat, and he looked sick, and I knew he had it. And he was staring at me, and I knew he was looking at me, thinking he knew I wasn't sick. And then he looked down at the baby, and he immediately looked back up at me. He was wondering if I knew the baby was passed away. And then he just looked over. We had a cot set up, or a little bed in the front. He just walked over and laid down. And I knew that he would never get back up. And that was the end of the dream. That was it. And so I assume I stayed. I knew I left when those people came back. I knew I left with them. But I think I kind of remember them saying they'll come back in a couple of weeks. So I'm assuming I stayed in the house for a couple of weeks with all those bodies. But I have no memory of that. And so that is another one, and it looked to be, I know I had a dress on. I don't really remember the clothing. But that's about all I remember of that one.